please go ahead.
It's me.
Yeah.
Oh, Sophie Peel, reporter at Willamette Week.
But please go ahead. I was actually having Brian turn the camera on.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I couldn't tell if you were looking at me or him. I was like, okay.
But it's great we introduced ourselves. We are here for, we've done like 14 of these. Remind me which House District we're talking about today.
35.
House District 35. So the purpose of this interview is to get to know the two of you for about 30 minutes to make a decision about who we're going to endorse. We may ask more questions to one person than another, depending on what information we're trying to get. The goal is for us to figure out who we're picking. So that means that we may drill down on a couple of questions. So we can't promise equal time. We would ask that you not interrupt each other, but you are welcome to speak to each other if you wish to. And without further ado, we'll start with the incumbent representative. Could you introduce yourself to our viewers and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've done in office?
Yeah, I'm Farah Chaichi. I use she, her pronouns. I am a lifelong Beavertonian. My parents met at the University of Portland, moved out to Beaverton in the 80s, and I just never left. I mean, aside from college. I went to school for criminal justice and political science because I wanted to make a difference in the world. And while I learned that the schooling will tell you how the system is supposed to work, the practical nature of how you make change is not taught at school. So in 2014, I got involved with the City of Beaverton's Human Rights Advisory Commission and realized we were just advisory. They don't have to listen to us. They don't have to make any changes. So I started showing up for candidates who would make the changes I wanted to see. And I just got involved more and more with more organizations and political groups until we got here.
Sure. What work experience did you have before you were joining the legislature, or do you have now, because it's a part-time job?
I work at Stoll Reeves running conflict checks, so if you two wanted to sue each other, we'd run your names through our database and spit out a report, and then we open those in the system.
Great. Please tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm Casey Zimmerman. I am 38 years old. I live in Beaverton area. I grew up over there. I'm a local kid. I have a degree in political science from Portland State. I'm a part of an ownership group of a small business. I have a
What's the business?
Phoenix Solutions.
And what do you guys do?
We build a large heavy lift drone to put out forest fires, move cargo, do humanitarian aid, search and rescue kind of operations. We itself aren't the operators of the aircraft. That would be a pilot in the loop. We're the manufacturers of it. We're headquartered here in Oregon.
How big is the business?
20 people.
And your role
we are
there
a
is?
Very small business. Well, I'm part of the ownership group,
okay.
But my direct role is the director of marketing and sales for our company.
Sorry, keep going.
No problem. I'm an Eagle Scout. I am a youth football and basketball coach. Been doing that for a while. And I have a beautiful wife, and I'm going to be a dad soon. Just a couple weeks.
Oh, wow.
She's 38 weeks as of yesterday. So I'm really looking forward to meeting my son. This will be my first kid. And we've got a couple dogs, Winston and Brutus. My skills in my job and in my volunteer experience give me things like pragmatic capability, problem solving, teamwork. I think those are important things for legislation.
Why are you running for a seat that's occupied by a fellow Democrat?
Well, I think I believe in democracy and the primary process. I think a robust primary is excellent. I also, Teddy Roosevelt's a big hero of mine. He wrote a poem and a story about being the man in the arena. And I think it's important that if you are upset and you want to make change, that you get involved and do what you can. And so that's why I'm running today.
What are you upset about?
Well, a multitude of things. I think that our state is doing a lot of great things moving forward, but there are a couple things that are my issue. And I'm running specifically as a small business owner, so I'm trying to help small businesses, but and build an economy for everybody, but building an economy including for union laborers and things like that. I'm a huge advocate of workers. I know what it's like to work hard, and I want to work hard for the people of the state.
Representative, can you point to legislation that you passed in your first session that is a reason to send you back to Salem?
Yeah, we did a lot of good work. I think the Coal Act most recently was my favorite thing that we passed this session, in the short session. I would have been happier if we had divested fully from fossil fuels, which was something that came forward in the long session, but there was not enough of a consensus around that, so coal is a good start. We also brought back, I say we, like...
Sorry, that acronym isn't familiar to me. Can you... The COLAC?
Coal Act.
Coal?
Coal Act.
The thermal
Oh.
coal. Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry.
You worried me. I'm like, what does that acronym stand for? So much alphabet soup. And then the district dollars for what we brought back, they're not exactly a bill that people will put forward. They're in the...
The Christmas tree bill. Yeah.
That's not the best word to use to call it that, I guess. Some people find it offensive. The omnibus budget bill, we got $13.9 million over the last 2 sessions for the county's CAT project, the Center for Addiction Triage and Treatment, which is going to add beds to treatment services and much needed wraparound services. It's not in my district, but it's really close to my district, and it's going to serve people who live in my district. And then nerdy water project money that we got because I've been going to city council meetings for years and heard about the Purple Pipe project just as a civilian. It repurposes stormwater into non-potable uses. It's the first of its kind in Oregon, and again, it's really nerdy. Like, I heard about it in city council and now I get to be part of helping build it.
Were you a chief sponsor of the Coal Act?
I don't think it was a chief, just a regular.
Okay.
If you went to Salem, what's the first bill you'd try to pass?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm going to be a new dad soon. I think skyrocketing childcare is a huge issue that's coming up for young families. I think that we need to, we've done some good legislation in 22 and 23, and I'd like to work with groups that are in Salem to help push forward universal childcare.
Okay. If memory serves, and I'm looking this up, you were the sponsor of the Oregon Right to Rest Act, which
The 7th or 8th time around, yeah.
Yeah, which garnered a lot of headlines this session, and fellow Democrats, I'm confident, badly wished that it were not garnering those headlines, especially at a moment when they were trying to appear to be tough on conditions they were seeing on the streets. Certainly, lots of right-wing media outlets made hay with it.
Mm-hmm.
Any regrets?
I don't regret standing up for what's right, even when it is going to put some heat on me. That's why I'm going to Salem, or why I went, and that's why I want to go back.
Why is it right?
Because we have to treat people with compassion, and forcibly removing people from where they have stability, whether or not that's the right place for them to be, it's the compassionate right thing to do. We don't have any place for folks to go. We don't have enough shelter beds. We don't have enough housing. Where are they going to go? The move along tactic just continues to destabilize folks, and how are we going to make sure that they can get services and food and just general life, I don't know, like stability. You need that to get out of the situation that you're in, and it kills people, basically. It kills people to constantly take their home and take their possessions and take what lets them survive.
What would the bill have done?
It would have said that you can't remove people from public land if they are camping there, and it provided a private right of action for homeless folks if they were forcibly removed from that public land. And I think that that's what the right-wing media really picked up on. I think that's what individuals also really picked up on. They were worried they were going to be sued. That wasn't the case. And, you know, I don't know a lot of homeless folks that have attorneys on retainer, so I don't know that it would happen that much. It would probably have to be a pretty egregious action where enough of them could get together to have maybe a class action or have enough damages that it would make it worth the attorney's time.
So it would have it would have guaranteed the right to sleep on public lands.
To exist in public spaces.
I mean, sure, but to sleep on public lands, right?
Yeah.
And then offered the possibility of legal action should a governmental agency violate that right.
Mm-hmm.
Would it have affected private lands?
No.
Why do you think it got so much ink?
Because people are really tired of looking outside and seeing people live on the street. It hurts. It hurts to see your neighbors in that situation, and it hurts to think that we're part of a society that lets that happen. And I think that there's a lot of scapegoating that happens too onto homeless people with other problems in our society, and it's kind of an easy sensationalist headline.
Okay. What do you think of the bill?
Well, I think what the governor is doing to prevent homelessness by keeping people in their homes, providing grants to allow people to stay in their homes, and to provide grants and builds to build more buildings, affordable housing, are the right direction. I think the right to rest public spaces wasn't very clear in the bill, and I know that it didn't sit well with a lot of people in our district as I'm meeting with them every day, knocking on doors.
Did you get a lot of pushback from people in the community, or was it just the Andy knows of the world?
I would say a vast majority were people outside of the district, but there were people in the district who were upset. There were people who were also happy to see somebody try, even if it's not super popular and wasn't going to garner the best headlines.
Okay. Please go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask about the other controversial thing that you voted against was criminalizing possession of fentanyl.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me about that? Because I think you were the lone dissenter on that one. So why did you take that position?
In general, since high school, I've known that the war on drugs is taking resources away from root causes, addressing why we get to this point in the first place. And so that tough on crime, war on drugs rhetoric that we heard about that bill really was my first little red flag. And then in the text of the bill, it said 5 user units of fentanyl or detectable amounts of fentanyl. And we've been hearing for years that this is getting cut into other drugs. So effectively, we were doing recriminalization of other drugs through this fentanyl bill, and I didn't think that that was right either.
So if there was like a different type of pill that had traces of fentanyl in it,
Yeah, it said
that would've
detectable
included.
amounts. So like the number of grams of cocaine that you could have is higher than the number of grams you could have of fentanyl for the decriminalization. And if you had bought that cocaine and it had fentanyl in it and you didn't know it, you would be guilty because there's no mental state attached to it. It's not you knowingly bought it, it's just you bought it.
So I would imagine that the Democrats that did vote to criminalize this were doing so out of the knowledge that fentanyl is a real killer, even if it's in tiny trace amounts in another type of drug or in another pill. It's a killer. What would you say to them when they say, well, it's really a matter of like, no, we don't want to throw people in jail, but we also don't want them to die? What would you say to that?
It was the user amounts that I was focusing on. So I know they want to stop people from selling drugs to people that are going to kill them. If you are a user, that is the lowest level of like crime, I guess, in the hierarchy of drug crimes. So I know we want to stop people from taking something that's going to kill them. They're not going to just because we make it illegal. Decades of failed drug war policy has shown that, and having these criminal penalties that are enforced differently in different jurisdictions is not going to have the outcome of stopping people from dying.
Any
What's your
thoughts
take on that?
on recriminalization of both fentanyl and hard drugs?
Yeah, I mean,
more largely?
we were losing 3 Oregonians a day to drug overdoses. I think recriminalization is something that we looked at, and the state voted for it. Unfortunately, not my opponent, but did vote to recriminalize.
Well, no, the state didn't. The legislature.
Legislature did, I'm sorry. But the governor just recently signed for it. And I think that is a good example of us looking at a policy and going, okay, this didn't work. We need to fix things. It's not a perfect bill. Not all bills are perfect. But we can. It's a step forward that we can work on to help people get the help they need to kick these bad habits.
What do you think of the overhaul, gutting, whatever you want to call it, of Measure 110?
Me?
What do you think? Yeah.
Well, obviously, I was a no vote on that bill, 4002. I have a really awesome floor speech. If you haven't seen it, I can send you a link.
We'd like that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, it's the failed war on drugs, and I understand that we didn't get the outcomes that we wanted to see from 110. There were a couple of problems that I feel like we didn't address or discuss before we went full force on 4002. And when I say discuss, I mean like as a state. 110 was a ballot initiative, so it's not as fleshed out as a lot of legislation that's taken years to craft with lots of different stakeholders at the table. And then on top of that, the state had problems getting the money out the door to the service providers to start giving the treatment that was promised. So we had a couple of levels of failings. And I think with the homelessness crisis too, it sort of exacerbated people's visceral reactions to what was going on. When you talk to people, they want to provide compassionate care. They don't want to put people behind a prison. And I'm really disappointed that the mandatory diversion, if we're going to go the criminal route, was changed to optional diversion, because that really means that Oregonians in one county are going to be treated differently than Oregonians in another county. And as we've seen disparate impacts in the criminal justice system for years, both related to drugs and other things, that's just going to continue with this.
So you represent Beaverton and Aloha, is that right?
Yeah.
I think of those as being sort of, they're suburbs and moderate to conservative places, and I would describe you as a highly progressive lawmaker. Do you find there's a disjunct between yourself and your district?
No, I think that our district over the last decade, maybe 2 decades, has really grown. We've really changed, and our county is also super young. Last time I ran, I was the exact median age, which was 36. So we are younger and more progressive, and we have people from a lot of different backgrounds. We have like 90 languages spoken in our school district, so we have a lot of diversity of opinions. And we have...
Oh, hang on.
This happened.
I got it. I promise this is not hijacking the interview.
It's happened at least once in every single interview.
Really?
Yeah, it's just, it's an automated, yeah.
Oh, we have to move.
We have to be in this room because of a problem with deliveries
Yeah.
of papers today, so that's how.
I get that.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was saying, but...
Oh, that you were saying it's a highly diverse district, many languages spoken.
Yeah, I can't remember. Sorry.
Sorry. Do you think that the representative is a good match for her district?
I think that our district is incredibly diverse, and it's one of the reasons that I live there. I love where I live. Beaverton is a great place. Aloha, Hillsborough, because there's a little bit of Hillsborough in there. I think that there has been some distance from kind of some of the positions that my opponent has taken and what the district has said. And I can say that because I'm knocking on doors every single day, having conversations with people. Everybody is really concerned about what's happening in Portland, and they're really concerned about what's going to happen in Washington County, in our district, which is Beaverton, Aloha, and Hillsborough.
Oh, you'll all be fine. You're in the suburbs.
Can you each talk about maybe a couple of your most meaningful endorsements? Representative, we'll start with you. Whether it's labor unions, politicians, former, current.
You want me to start a fight among my endorsers?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
It is probably the labor unions. And the last session, the short session, I worked really closely with AFT, and so I'm gonna shout out the American Federation of Teachers.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
What about SEIU?
Have they gotten back to us yet? I can't remember. We have the Oregon Education Association. You're gonna make me spell out all of the acronyms. I'm sorry.
You can go acronym heavy on this. It's fine.
Yeah, we're pretty familiar with the union.
You got OEA. You may have SEIU. AFSCME.
UFCW.
Okay.
We're pursuing more, so it's hard for me to remember where we are at in everyone's process.
Is there a legislator or two that you are most proud of being endorsed by?
I mean, Rep. Confam has sort of been an icon for me, so, but I don't want to make any of my colleagues upset.
And Casey, any endorsements you're proud of?
Yeah, I got into this race to, be in a primary and to provide people an option. I got in the race about a month ago. I'm still very new at this. I'm looking and meeting with organizations We'll see how that goes, but I really appreciated the support that I've received from people on the door-to-door, one-on-one conversations where we can really drill down on what their needs and wants are for our district.
Okay. So you're seeking to replace an incumbent. So you have to make the case to the voters that you would be an improvement on that incumbent in some way.
Yeah, well,
So let's have you make that case to us.
sure, yeah. So I think a primary is super important, and I didn't realize it was such a controversial thing to run in a primary. I thought that would be good for democracy, so that's why I am running. I think that my opponent has taken some tough spots, taken some tough votes that just don't sit well with a lot of people in our district. Didn't sit well with me. I sat down and looked at her voting record, and I went through it and was like, okay, I don't like these things, and the people I've talked to agree, and both my family, my neighborhood, they've all supported me and really pushed me to give this a go, and I just decided to take my cut.
We've touched on 2 of those votes. What others are you unhappy with?
It's really criminal justice is the biggest issue. We would like to see people get the help that they need and not criminalize people, but we also need people to take. We need to be able to work towards helping those people make that decision.
Any response to that? Maybe a better way to ask that question that's more helpful is for me to say, why is it that you think voters should send you back for another term rather than sending somebody who doesn't like your votes?
Our district is heavily working class. We're super dense, and I have done a lot to represent working class interests. I'm one of the few renters that actually is in the district, and it's wild to me that I still get doors in apartment complexes where people are like, no one's ever knocked on my door before. And to be fair, some of it's unincorporated, so there are fewer electeds that would knock on their door. But I feel like we in our district haven't been represented as well as we could have been by people because they don't live the experiences that they have. It's been a while since they've lived paycheck to paycheck or experienced food insecurity or have been no cause evicted because a California company bought their apartment complex. And bringing those experiences and stories, not just from myself, but from my friends and the constituents that we heard from, is really important.
Great. This is an opportunity for each of you, if you want to ask your opponent a question, if you care to. I'll let you go first.
Excuse me. I will ask a question. Last week, Intel mentioned that they're going to invest $36 billion into our district. That means jobs, that means helping our economy, helping our schools. Building new buildings means labor, means union labor. These are important things for our economy, important things for our district and our state. This is not in just the CHIPS Act of the federal government, but also in part of what we did here in the CHIPS Act with SB 4. My question to you is why you voted no against SB 4, as it's so important to the district and the local community.
I definitely struggled with that one. Growing up in Beaverton, I know you know that so many people have great lives and own their homes because they work at Intel. And I know a lot of people were upset about the UGB component, which was a concern of mine. But the reason I said no, and I made a floor speech on this, was because there's that Intel facility off TV Highway, and it always has really pretty sunsets because there's so much particulate matter in the air over there. And was it last year or the year before, Intel got fined like $30,000 for those scrubbers being off. And I felt like I didn't want to vote for this bill until I knew we were going to provide resources to our natural resource regulating agencies like DEQ so that they could effectively oversee the emissions and the pollution that was going to come from the expansion of Intel. And then when the DEQ air permitting fee bill came to the floor, it almost died on the floor, which is how we pay for regulating air pollution. So I feel like I wasn't entirely wrong.
Well, I mean, you have a good point, but I just found the phrasing odd there. You feel like you weren't entirely wrong? Like, do you think you were wrong?
I mean, we passed the bill, so we did go forward to help resource DEQ, but we have historically underfunded natural resource agencies, so we're sort of playing catch up, I guess.
Got it. Question for your opponent?
Yeah. Folks have said that you're a defense contractor. I don't know very much about you. I think that the question that would be most important to our district would be, can you guarantee that the products that you're involved with have never or will never kill an innocent child?
Well, what I can say is that my company is doing a lot of really important things in our community. Not only is it in our community, but internationally. We can support a multitude of missions, whether it be humanitarian aid or disaster relief or search and rescue or fighting fires, which is super important. Our product is going to build jobs in this district, or in this state. It is going to be fantastic for the pilots who will fly our aircraft because they're not putting their lives at risk. We're 20 guys in McMinnville. We're not a giant defense contractor that you would think that plays in Washington. We are doing things that I can't really discuss, but we are working with our military and supporting our military missions.
Well, I mean, like, Robert Oppenheimer was like 20 guys. Like, I don't know that I'm finding that to be an entirely persuasive answer.
Well, it's a lot different than what you would think of a large defense contractor. We're just a small group of guys who are building a piece of equipment that is going to help people. It's going to save pilots' lives. It's going to meet these missions where they're at. And I think that's really important. I'm damn proud of it.
Okay. Sophie, anything more?
I don't think so.
We have a fun question. So, if there were a movie made of your life, who would play you? It does not have to be a physical resemblance, just to be clear. It is just, which actor do you want playing you in the movie? Either one of you can go first. That doesn't.
I mean, I'd love for Bradley Cooper to play me. I think he's a great actor, a fantastic actor, and of course he's got hair, which is always a positive thing. That or Tom Hardy. I think Tom Hardy is a really gritty, great actor, and I think that he would do a good job for the role.
Great.
Sometimes I feel like I channel Dixie Carter a la Julia Sugarbaker, so probably her.
Very nice. Well, thank you very much to both of you. You gave us your ages 38.
Yes.
Can you-
Also.
Also 38?
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah.
Birthday buddies.